My name is Shret. My last name is Tahiri. Um, I was born in Gjilan, and is a small city in Kosovo. I was born there and raised there, and we were three kids. I was the oldest, and I had two brothers. Mm, I just had an amazing childhood. My parents were really, really good people, and I just love them very much. And of course, now I'm 48. I'm a mother of three. I have two daughters and a son, and I live in Canada. Um, Before I moved to Canada, I lived in part of Serbia. That's where I was married. Um, and it was just um, happened that I was in Gjilan, and the war started. I think when I went in Canada, I was so busy raising my children. I had three kids. I never had time to watch TV, or I was so busy with the kids. Of course, it's not easy to raise three children. Working, and always I try to be a perfect mother, and doesn't exist perfect mother nowhere, of course. But I think I started to realize that I started to overprotect my children when they started to grow up. I knew something is wrong. I knew definitely, because they wanted their freedom. I didn't want to let them go. And I thought something is wrong here, and I need to figure it out. I didn't know that I have PTSD. Of course I didn't know. But I kept my children, my girls, in my room because I had fear that somebody will come to take my children. So when I went to the family doctor, I made an appointment and I said, listen, something is wrong and I'm not sure what it is, but I am scared to leave my children to walk to school. And she said, okay, maybe you need some therapy. You're a psychologist and is covered by the government, and let's do that. And every session that we had, I knew more about myself. I knew more about, I got so angry, and sometimes I just didn't want to talk, and it was so difficult. And it was good. It was very good experience, because it's important to know when to when you need the help. And some fears, they never let you go. I have fears. Maybe 5, 6 years I had the fear from the dark. I had the fear to be by myself in a house. So all that is a trauma from the war. it's really hard when I will talk for my experience, and it's really hard to talk in details because it's something that is very painful, and always we try to avoid the pain. Of course, I never knew who they were, and it's 20 years. I will never recognize because of the years are very long time. But the pain is there. I knew they were Serbs.
Shumë vështirë ka qenë. Për një të mbijetuar të luftës ka qenë shumë vështirë, se ky krim të ka vrarë për çdo ditë. Ka qenë një krim që ti e ke mbajtur në vete, s'ke pas mundësi t'ja tregosh askujt, qoftë familjarëve, se gjithmonë e ke ndi veten të turpënume. Kam shumë shoqe që sot nuk janë në mesin tonë. Fatkeqësisht s'kan mujt me mbijetu këtë krim, që kanë qenë të paragjykume, të anashkalume nga familja. Ka qenë një temë tabu, se në atë kohë nuk ka mundur kërkush të flasë për këtë rast. Pasojat sot i bartim. Por na, falë kësaj organizate e cila na ka ndihmu, për mu ka qenë një periudhë shumë e gjatë, 13 vite m'ja ndasht, për me u rehabilitu e murim kamp. Falë kësaj organizate, unë tash jam gjallë. Pasojat janë që shumë grave, nga momenti i dhunimit, i është marrë amësia, e kur ma nuk e gëzojnë fjallën nan. Nuk ka mundur për shkak të plagëve që janë shkaktu. S'ka mundur t'jetë nan. S'ka mund t'jetë nan e mirë, një infermiere e mirë, një edukatore e mirë. Tanë jetën e bart një turp, e bart një faj. Tanë jetën as një herë nuk e ninat krenarin e vetë. I ka hup identiteti, pra kur ma një jetë nuk e nin vetën krenare. Qoftë për një fjalë, qoftë për një punë që e ban, qoftë për një ecje, qoftë për një veshje, qoftë për një dukje, asë një herë. Pasi që ka prek në nderin, ka prek në shpirtin. Kjo është një plagë e cila të fret për çdo ditë.
Because the shame is ours that we did not talk for continuous years after the end of the war, that we didn't do nothing towards the survivors of the sexual violence. We just covered with them with this veil of shame, and we cornered them in one side and simply not talking about what has happened to us, which not only built into the taboo due to the many of the mentality reasons of our community, of our society, and in the stigma, but has automatically reflected on something which was a very basic and which is a very crucial towards the survivors of the sexual violence, has built in this culture of impunity.
Është e dhënshme të kuptoj nga vetë mbijetuara kur vjen në trajtime dhe thotë që u ndonë se unë isha shtatzën në atë kohë, edhe isha shtatzën me burrin tim, se me njëherë pas luftës kishte ndodhur kjo. Mua më detyruan që të shkoj në shtëpinë e nënës time dhe aty kam lindë, në ditën e parë që kam lindë, fëmia im është marrë nga vjera ime dhe që nga ajo ditë nuk e kam parë kurrë. Momentin kur unë nuk e kam parë kurrë fëmijën tim. Momentin që unë kisha taku këtë viktim ishte viti 2015, që do të thotë që fëmia e saj tani ishte në moshën 15 vjeçare, por që nëna nuk e kishte parë asnjëherë. Më thanë, po flasin për stigmën që edhe kur bashkëshortët dinë me që dëshirojnë ose duan të jenë mbështetës, përballen me presionin e rrjetit dhe komunitetit ku ata jetojnë për të marrë një vendim ndryshe nga ata që duan në fakt. Kështu që ne sot, viktimat e dhunës seksuale të cilat sot vinë në trajtim, kryesisht janë viktima që kanë përjetuar që përballen me stresin post-traumatik, përballen me depresion, përballen me angth, përballen me mendime vetvrasëse, si dhe me izolim, qoftë nga familjarët ose të afërmit e tjerë. Kjo për arsye se ato të cilat kishin folë më herët.
20 years ago, we have inherited a country which has been totally destroyed, not only from the infrastructure point of view, but also from the human point of view. And inherited a country which has left behind an estimated number of 20,000 women and men raped during the wartime, where rape has been used as a tool of war. Whenever the perpetrators conducted those crimes, they were saying to the survivors, to the victims that time, that you have to remember very well this face which has done this to you, that you could never forget what you have gone through. And so their main purpose was for the war to last much longer after it had officially ended, and they were able to achieve that.
It was interesting because many survivors, they started speaking up. They started sharing their stories. But what happened? They got the wall of stigma. In that time when they were speaking up, they didn't feel ashamed to say the story because they felt we were used. But this society pushed them back. When we saw that government was thinking only about the people who fought in the war, we decided to make the issue public.
That everybody knew it about that, but nobody was there to come publicly and to talk about that.
It's a show where is Oprah there, and just she's so amazing, and I watched it so many years, like every day, and I think she had the similar situation, and I just admire her, and I thought, you know what, she can do it, and she's like a star. I'm just a normal mother, but I thought I was comparing myself to her. I think that's where you find your strength, because you need the strength from somewhere, and that's where I realized that there's so much pain there, and it's hard to take it out. But I did it, I did it. So I had the interview with Mrs. Drita Haidari, and she is the prosecutor. And I had such a wonderful experience. And also she had people work with prosecutor that they had the interview with me. They were really good, very friendly, very professional. I had so much time. Not pushing me, and it was here at KRCT at Dr. Farideh Rushidi Center, and I think from now on, all the women will come here to do the interview because of the being comfortable and make they to feel good. Not to be nervous or having panic or seeing men around or people that they know or something. So I think that is really good idea, and I had really good experience about that. And I thank KRCT for everything what they did to help me go through this. And of course, the pain is there, but still you learn, you teach yourself that, you know, it's not your fault, is things happen. They thought they broke me, they broke the other women, but they didn't. I am also activist at the SEMA network for Dennis Madweg, and I'm also activist at the KRCT that is run by Dr. Farid Rushidi, and I have to mention that she was the first one that I could open, and this was like 7-8 years ago. But she was so smart, I didn't have to say nothing. I just said that if something is bothering me and nobody knows from my culture and it's really hard for me and I want to take it out. And she knew, like she didn't ask nothing, like she understood.
I returned here on June 1999, preparing the ground, starting to ask different stakeholders how I can establish the organization. And I remember as today, I approached UNHCR office with idea to be registered as NGOs. In that time, they said, if you want to have such organization, you have to go in Belgrade to be registered. And I said, no, sorry, but I'm planning to work with the torture and war victims, so perhaps I could find another administration to just ask and see if I have possibility to operate with such organization. So it was so difficult to convince people that I am planning to establish one organization which will support them to overcome trauma. Then in January 2000, we established our branches in most vulnerable area of Kosovo when the war led a lot of atrocities. So in January we started already in Skenderai our activities. We started in Malisheva in that time, in Dechan, in Peja, Podujeva, later one in Gilan, and everywhere we had 2 doctors and 1 nurse who were prepared to provide psychosocial support because psychosocial as a concept was unknown for our societies. In the same time we had to prepare doctors and nurses to provide counseling, not a medical support to the survivors, but this was the most taboo topics in our societies, and most of the time societies and communities didn't want to speak about these issues because in our mentalities a rape was considered as a shame and as related with the honor of the family. So if you touch the woman, you touch the honor of the family, and somehow family wanted to close this issue only in the cycle of family. So a lot of story of survivor closed on the families, and it was so hard for us in the beginning to approach to that community. We had it to use as an entry point, we are providing service to torture victims related to the war in general. Even we know that in certain houses there were rape victims, we had information from other sources. We never ever went directly to that houses because immediately community become alert what is happening. They know that something happened there, and we didn't want it to bring the survivor in vulnerable position. So we really had it carefully to develop our strategies in different way, how to enter to certain community just to create the trust first with the survivors and family, and later on to enlarge our service in those areas when we had information that they were collective rape or individual cases.
So every day I was ready. Every day I was ready to go in the public. I was thinking, okay, I need my justice. I need the justice. But every evening, my mind was, I changed. In a world everywhere this happened, and is a weapon of war. They use a rape as a weapon of war, and that's not right. That's not right. It is not right.
When President Yayaga came to power, she met with the survivors of rape and she decided to start a council for supporting the survivors of rape. It was amazing because that structure that she brought all people from government, from parliament, civil society, donors, say, okay, it's time we do something together. And a number one thing that we were supposed to do together and to push to happen was the law. To amend the law and bring this group, to bring the survivors of rape into the law so they can also have legal protection.
Because by pointing the fingers towards the survivors, we didn't realize that we are in a way amnesting the perpetrators of these horrendous crimes. And we did not point the fingers towards the country who has done this crime, towards the regime that has done these horrendous crimes, and towards seeking the help and support by the international community, and seeking the accountability by the neighboring country of Serbia to cooperate with institutions of Kosovo to hand over the perpetrators of these horrendous crimes.
Unë jam e dhunuar nga 4 forca sërbe, polic kanë qenë sërb. E ndihem fajtore përderisa nuk ka drejtësi. Mirë po, inshallah don Zoti e janë sigurta. Po edhe nëse nuk don, na për te i vdekjes nuk kem ku me shku. Mundemi edhe me myt veten, ma e nej s'kem ku. E qëta maran se përjetojna, se besoj.
Një rrugë kosovare nga forcat serbe gjatë luftës në Kosovë ka shkaktuar shumë vuajtje.
There were only 3 trials which contained the accusation for rape, and unfortunately, on all three trials, the indicted persons were found not guilty, and they were released. So basically, in front of courts in Kosovo, no, not a single victim of sexual violence during the war and in its aftermath did not receive or did not see justice. But unfortunately, those cases of sexual violence were not really well documented, not only by civil society organizations or other institutions, but also justice component or prosecutor office did not succeed to document those cases, and as a consequence of this, there was no one sentenced for committing such a trial.
But all this time, from 99 to 2012, it was a huge time, but in that time we saw that, for example, United Nations mission in Kosovo was not really pushing this issue of justice, even though they got thousands of testimonies. Then they told us that they lost those testimonies. I mean, yes.
So it was a fault of investigators who investigated cases that basically make the process failed. Even the victims were interested to give their testimonies, and they give testimonies. The result of the trial was not desired. But I don't have any evidence that failure of those cases was intention of prosecutor or investigators or courts. In general, justice sector has failed to provide justice for war crime victims, especially on the cases of rape as a war tool. As I mentioned, there was a single case that a victim of sexual violence got the justice. But one of the biggest challenges for justice sector, especially for prosecutor, is to secure the presence of those who are suspected to have committed such crimes. Problem is the non-cooperation between Serbia and Kosovo. Because Serbia is not recognized in Kosovo as a state, then they are not establishing a cooperation with a prosecutor, a special prosecutor office for war crimes in Kosovo, and as a consequences, those who are suspected for committing war crimes in Kosovo are feeling very safe and secure in Serbia, and vice versa. So I'm saying very often that perpetrators of war crimes are in one side of the border, while their victims are in another side. There were no applications. There are no applications from non-Albanian, basically from Serbian war victims, because the law which provides, or the law which acknowledges status of victims of sexual violence is pretty discriminatory. The law foresees that victims of sexual violence are those who were raped from 20th of February 98 until 20th of June 99, excluding possible cases of rape after 20th of June 99. It's a shame for a society to have discriminatory laws on such a category of victims.
So that's it's like a puzzle for me. So the puzzle will get complete, I think, when I get my justice.